Following a little bit of internal house cleaning where Jeff Palermo apologizes to Todd Horne for doubting his prowess and predicting last week's LSU domination of Arkansas, Glenn Guilbeau, Jeff, and Todd welcome LSU Odyssey's Lonn, Phillips, Sullivan to break down the keys to LSU's success so far this season and how it can and should continue in College Station on Saturday night against the very physical number 14 Texas A&M Aggies. I'm your host, Jake McMains, and all that and more right after this.
Hi, I'm Mike Munderland, and we're here to smash the capital city's trash.
Smash My Trash is a revolutionary compactor for large dumpsters, sometimes reducing the volume of waste by up to 70%. This means fewer hauls per month and big savings for your business. Fewer hauls and compacted waste will also result in a positive impact on our community and our environment by taking up less space in our local landfill sites. Schedule your company's free demo today. Call 225-497-0101.
Y'all ready? Yeah. Let's go. Come on.
Tiger Rag Radio is on the air.
Let's crank this thing up.
We're statewide, breaking down the latest happenings with LSU athletics.
This is us.
Hear from the coaches.
Put together a defense that puts us in a position to win the SEC.
The players.
Having fun and we working, baby. That's it, baby.
The recruits.
Show some passion and some heart.
And those who cover the Fighting Tigers of LSU and the SEC.
All those things are going to be there, which are important.
It's 2 hours of nonstop LSU talk.
What a privilege. I mean, you get to represent LSU.
Tiger Rag Radio is brought to you by Cummins. Cummins creates power solutions that the world depends on. Helm Paint and Decorating. The paint experts of Louisiana. Louisiana Beef Industry Council. Max Home. And the East Baton Rouge Parish Library. Get ready to talk Tigers with producer Jackson Blackman and our hosts, Todd Horne and Jeff Palermo.
Three great players that are better people than they are players.
This is Tiger Rag Radio.
So LSU off a really solid victory against Arkansas, and I will have to give a little bit of apologies. I think I insult. I'll
bow. You have to bow.
Bow. It's 2 weeks in a row, my man.
Hold on, Jimmy the Greek. So on our Tiger Rag Audibles podcast, Todd Horne predicted the score to be, what was it, 41-18?
No, I said 49-18. I was thinking of a 31-point spread because I never imagined LSU would sit on the ball at the end of the first half and at the end of the game like they did.
Well, Sam Pittman's a nice guy. You don't want to rub it in, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
But that was a great way to end the game, I thought, showed that they have a running game and ate up 8 minutes of the clock. We were talking earlier.
Yeah.
It's like the longest time of possession drive they've had since 2012.
Wow, Les Miles era stuff there. But when Todd made the prediction, I reminded Todd that they're not playing Arkansas State. They're playing Arkansas.
Right.
But you picked a blowout there, Todd.
I did because I saw it coming down to the running game for both teams. I knew that Arkansas was going to go downhill, opposite of what Ole Miss tried to do against LSU, and LSU held them to, 38 yards? I didn't expect it to be that solid of a performance by LSU's defense, but I did think they were going to hold them under 100 yards. And then I thought LSU, and I even said, would rush for more than 150 yards, and they rushed for 158.
Caden Durham had a great game, 101 yards. Looked healthier with his toes.
And Kelly said he was only at 85%, correct?
Yeah, so if he gets closer to 100% against A&M, that's a good way to kind of calm a voracious opponent's home crowd is to kind of deaden them with the run. So that could be important.
They just took their guts out. I mean, LSU really whipped them. They really did dominate that game.
Well, there's a couple things that really happened well for LSU in this game. I think getting off to the fast start, scoring a touchdown right off the bat. They just can no longer continue to get behind by double digits against these teams and expect to win. And they took the win out of Arkansas Sales right off the bat. And I think the other thing that surprised me, I had it 30-20, so I had a double-digit game. And remember, there's a lot of people around the country that were saying LSU was ripe to be beaten in Fayetteville because Arkansas was coming off the bye, because they look good in beating Tennessee. But the fact that LSU was able to hold Arkansas to 38 yards rushing in the game, that surprised me because I was banking in the fact that Arkansas was going to bust off a couple of long runs.
Yeah, you even said they're going to bust off a 55 or 65
Yeah.
yarder because that's what LSU's defense does every game.
And their longest run was just 13 yards. That is very impressive against a team that has a good running back, has a quarterback that can make some things happen with his feet, and LSU just flat out shut them down. And I thought LSU, that they were going to have a couple things going in their favor. And I think you kind of talked about this too, Todd. This is an Arkansas team that can move the ball, but they don't really score a lot of points. And LSU's really good of playing this bend but don't break defense. And I thought that was really going to play in LSU's factor, and it really did. Even really Arkansas barely even moved the ball other than the one touchdown drive they had.
Yeah, and you know, you look at it now statistically, and this is really amazing when you look back to, of course, last year's defense versus this year's defense. LSU is like 7th in the country in red zone defense.
Yeah.
And they're doing very well on third down conversion stops. So, and of course, they got that honky badger.
The honky badger, Whit Weeks. That's his new nickname because he's similar to the honey badger. But I mean, really,
that was a huge play. What a play!
Yeah, I mean, Whit Weeks is really becoming what Tyrann Mathieu was, kinda, and really what Harold Perkins was as a freshman. It's amazing that they've had the addition by subtraction there with Perkins, but that does happen sometimes, and he could still be a great NFL player, Perkins.
Trains are everywhere. You should always expect one, even on private property. Only cross tracks at designated crossings that fit your equipment. If you don't fit, don't commit. Look, listen, live.
Yeah, let's bring in our first guest of the night as joining us now here on the Max Home Hotline, over 50,000 Max Happy homeowners and counting. Joining us now here on Tiger Rag Radio, it's Lonn Phillips Sullivan of LSUOdyssey.com. Lonn, thanks a lot for joining us here tonight. How you doing?
Doing fantastic, guys. How are you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
Well, it's great to have you on. That's for sure. Great stuff over at LSUOdyssey.com. But your thoughts on the Arkansas game? What did you find watching that game that was, I guess, most pleasing to the eyes as you watched it from an LSU perspective? And anything surprise you that the Tigers were able to do against the Razorbacks?
It's about that defense. It's about that defense, guys. That defense, I mean, would you have thought less than 12 months from that Matt House defense of 2023, a program low, that this team would be almost, the identity is kind of defensive led right now. I mean, very balanced, very complimentary team that we've got. You know, like when a band releases a new album and they say, hey, we're going back to the basics. We're stripping it all back to its essence, meat and potatoes. Well, we've seen that over the past 5 weeks with an LSU team that's gone back to a kind of throwback identity. Defense leading the way, solid fundamentals on offense, almost a 180 from 2023. And yet we've still got an incredible quarterback leading the charge. And yes, it's not the 2019 or 2023 offense. It doesn't have to be. And it's much better than the 2022 or 2018 offenses, a.k.a. Burrow and Jaden Daniels' first seasons. But this is a team that continues to surprise with their ability to kind of overcome the lack of depth, some of these key injuries. And they could either be undefeated or possibly have 3 losses right now. That's how crazy the season has been. They threw that game away in Vegas, as we know. But since then, this has been a completely different team. And I think it's really just the savagery on defense, and then just the newfound balance with Caden Durham kind of coming to the forefront for the offense that's really caught my eye, and just being able to win in different ways each game, it seems.
Hey, yeah, Lonn, great points. I like the old man, the old school comparison there from this old man, but the LSU is really tackling well. They solo tackle very well, and maybe it's because I've been covering the Saints as well, because they do not know how to tackle. But that just struck me when I'm watching the Arkansas game, and the announcers were saying it too. Man, they just got some sure tacklers on their defense, and they're rushing the passer real well. I mean, it's an amazing job that Blake Baker has done. And oh, by the way, he had 2 major injuries with Harold Perkins and Jacobian Guillory. So he's got to be the assistant coach of the year so far nationally, I would think. And the secondary has improved with Zy Alexander back there, and they're not giving up those huge plays in the middle of the field like they did early in the season. So it's been fun to watch.
And I think it's a lot to do with putting guys in the right position, like Sage Ryan playing in his natural spot of free safety. You're seeing him play his best football now.
So, hey, Lonn, have you been able to keep up with Texas A&M on a regular basis this year?
Somewhat, but they are the Aggies, so there's a little bit of a dip of interest, but yes, somewhat.
Okay, so I guess the company line going into this week is since 2018, this has been a home and home series. The home team has a big advantage. Texas A&M has got a mirrored situation this season to LSU. They lost their season opener to Notre Dame, and then they've turned around and won 6 straight. And they're going to be favored. They're favored by what? The line opened at 3.5 points. But and I'm just curious what you think, because when I look at the two teams, and I did spend a lot of time watching some A&M games over the weekend, I just don't see it. I mean, I see a strong defensive line, and that's about it from A&M. And I see a much more balanced team, a team that's really emerging, like you talked about and Glenn's talked about on defense, a solid offense, a team that's in LSU that's developing a strong running game finally. And I don't really think this is going to be that close of a game this week in College Station. Curious what you think.
I think you're onto something, because I mean, some of the film I watched as well, like I see a good solid team, kind of rugged with A&M, and yeah, they got the mirror record with us, but like a lot of their games are bloodbaths, really low scoring. I don't think outside of Le'Veon Moss, they have enough explosion on that offense to duel with LSU. Whereas LSU's offense, we know they have the explosion. We just kind of haven't seen it yet. Some of those guys haven't been on the field yet, like Chris Hilton Jr. We haven't seen it all kind of put together. I think if LSU put a clamp down on Le'Veon Moss, another great prospect out of Louisiana who's been really good for A&M, if LSU can put the clamp down on him, which they've done pretty damn good with the running game the last 3 games, only 110 yards allowed to on average, I really don't see any explosion out of them. Then they're forcing Connor Wakeman to make plays, and that's going to cause turnovers. This defense is going to feast, I believe, on Connor Wakeman. We're in the top 5 in havoc rate, pressure rate. I think Texas A&M has a great defensive line, but that offensive line has some weaknesses that I think are going to be exposed.
It's time to start betting on yourself. Louisiana 988 can help if you're dealing with tough emotions caused by gambling habits. You can share as much or as little as you want, and it's completely confidential. It's free, available 24/7, and most people who reach out report feeling better right in the moment. Call or text 988 anytime.
Joining us for another segment here on the Max Home Hotline, it's Lonn, Phillips, Sullivan from LSUOdyssey.com. Breaking down the Tigers-Aggies game coming up on Saturday night. Lonn, you were talking a little bit about Le'Veon Moss, the former Estruma prep star here in Baton Rouge, who grew up in Walker. Had a big game a couple weeks ago against Missouri, including a 75-yard run. Ended up having 3 touchdowns in that game against Mizzou. This is a guy that's got 674 yards rushing on the season. He's really their offense, isn't he, Lonn?
I really don't see much from the receiving core. I mean, they've got some dink and dunk possibilities. They could move possibly on this defense if LSU suddenly forget how to cover the inside routes, as you alluded to earlier. I mean, we were getting killed on slants and little in routes all last year, and they've cut out a lot of that. And I think it's just a lot of strong schematics by Blake Baker putting the right people in the right positions. That Sage Ryan, for example, he's much better at free safety. It balances the team. You bring Whit Weeks into the team. That helps Greg Penn III, become a lot better of a linebacker, unleashes his best attributes. I think as long as LSU can stuff this run, I'm really wondering how much A&M, how many possessions A&M really. It kind of boggles my mind if LSU were to lose this game. I am thinking it's going to be a low-scoring game. And I'm thinking LSU will have some struggles against this A&M defense, especially the front. But I just can't see any explosion out of this team other than Le'Veon Moss, really. And Connor Wegman, we've seen him be really turnover heavy as well. And this team has been feasting on turnovers, this LSU defense recently.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if Garrett Nussmeier is going, for a guy who's had, hit some really big plays against Ole Miss, and he kind of did his job at Arkansas, but his completion percentage the last 2 weeks is down, and Brian Kelly was talking about that because they don't throw a lot of the dink and dunk passes. He throws more difficult passes, but I know he can play better, and if he plays better and has the higher completion percentage, more yards, I mean it could definitely be a blowout. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, I think that's really about just getting that deep downfield explosion plays that LSU can absolutely do with Kyron Lacey, with CJ Daniels if he's okay to play. We saw him have a breakout game. CJ Daniels, you saw him making probably his biggest gains of the season, and Aaron Anderson, I think we've got to unleash him a bit more. You've seen him be a really strong third down target. He's making some really gutty plays, catches through traffic, taking hits. That play where he was able to stick his hand out there for the balance and get that first down. He's such a great, hungry little player, but I want to see more creativity with him. I'd like to see him used a bit more. Xavion Thomas. Glenn, guys, I think Xavion Thomas is a great matchup for us against this A&M defense. Use him in some jet sweep action. Just get this A&M defensive front moving side to side, and then you're going to open up the play action for Garrett Nussmeier down the field. And hopefully, guys, I'm going to cross my fingers on both sets of hands for Chris Hilton Jr. to be back.
Yeah.
You think there's a chance he'll play this week?
It's very strange, Glenn. This whole situation is very strange. Every side of this, every source of this I have, people don't really know what's going on. That's really rare, and that tells me that something's going on that people don't want out there. And whether that's the injury to Chris was more serious to begin with, and maybe kind of to watch out for the mental aspect of it with Chris's past injuries. They wanted to let's keep him active, make it kind of a week-to-week thing. I don't know. It's a very head-scratching situation because you'd think he should have been out there for Nichols, and then it was UCLA he'll be out there, and then he'll be out there for Ole Miss, and of course Arkansas. Nope,
it's getting late.
It's very strange. I'm really wondering if it's redshirt time or what's going on there.
Well, Lonn, speaking of red shirts, I want to shift gears really quick because we only have a couple more minutes. But you actually broke the story early last week, that West Weeks, Whit's older brother, was has been injured. I think a hamstring or something most of the year. That he's going to redshirt. Now, my understanding is no one at LSU has confirmed that yet, but we saw in the Arkansas game that when Greg Penn got injured on a play and had to come out for a few plays, we saw Wes Weeks on the sideline fully dressed, and he didn't come in. Instead, Devon Keys went in, a freshman linebacker. So what are you hearing on that front, even though LSU hadn't confirmed it yet about Weeks?
Well, I mean, it's quite obvious the reason LSU hasn't confirmed it. They want opposition to believe that, Weeks is an option and that we've got an extra option on the bench. Well, West, he is close to coming back, but this red shirt, this red shirt's a great opportunity for him because you basically can steal a season because he's going to be eligible for all postseason play as well.
Hey, Lonn, thanks a lot for joining us tonight. We're coming up here on a hard break. Good insight as always. LSU fans certainly need to check out LSUodyssey.com on a daily basis, and we'll have to get you back on the show here soon.
Thanks, Lonn.
Get ready to make some noise this October with the East Baton Rouge Parish Library. Join us for the 11th Annual Baton Rouge Maker Fair on October 19th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., where creativity and music come together. From live performances to hands-on workshops, there's fun with a beat for everyone. Visit batonrouge.makerfair.com for details. Brought to you by your East Baton Rouge Parish Library, where creativity never stops.
All right, that'll be it for today's episode. I'd like to thank Lonn for coming on. We'll be back next week, but until then, stay tuned to TigerRag.com for all your latest LSU sports news.